Hey, it's Foreclosure Girl Boss, and welcome to my YouTube channel, where I show investors how to level up and buy foreclosures like a boss so that they can make money and not lose money. So welcome to my YouTube channel. If you've been here before, then welcome back. Today I want to talk to you about something that is so super important. It's probably number one on the list. I never really thought about how to rate today's video until I got ready to prepare for today's video. And it's really number one. When I really think about it, today's topic actually is the number one thing that you need to do. The number one thing that you need to do. If you never buy the e-guide, if you never watch another YouTube video, then you're in the right spot, because today's video, it is the number one thing that you need to do as an investor when buying these REO properties. And it's so super simple. It's so simple. It's so super simple. It's what you should be doing anyway, but a lot of people don't do it. Most people don't do it. The number one thing that you need to do is read the contract. Simple, right? Read the contract. You should be reading anything that you have to sign your name to. You should be reading that anyway. You're about to buy a house. You should be reading the contract. If you're about to buy a car, you should be reading the contract. If you're signing your name or any document where there's pre-written language on some papers, you should read that. That really should be a no-brainer, but I'm telling you, a lot of people don't read the contract. And I know they don't read the contract back within an hour, half an hour, 15 minutes. So if I send it to the selling agent has to prepare it for signature to send it to their client. If I get it back within 15 minutes, nobody read that contract. I know nobody read that contract. I know the buyer didn't read it, and I know the agent didn't read it. You didn't have enough time to read it. How did you read it in 15 minutes? You didn't. How did you read it in 30 minutes and then have time to prepare signatures and get it out for signatures and then send it back to me within 30 minutes? You didn't read it. You couldn't even have done that in an hour. So it's super simple, and it seems very elementary, but yet so many people do not do it. And a lot of times when investors default on these contracts, which is the reason why the seller keeps their earnest money deposit, their EMD, which I talk about in another video. So if you haven't seen that, please go back and watch that. But I talk about your earnest money deposit, which for investors can be up to 20%. I don't see 20% too often, but I see 10% a lot. I see 10% a lot. And some sellers are asking for $500, some $1,000, some $2,500, some $5,000, depending upon the price of the house, things of that nature. But anyway, you don't have money to be giving away. Even if the EMD is only $500, do you want to give away $500? You don't. You don't want to give away $500. You definitely don't want to give away 10%. I'm not sure where your market area is, but $100,000 to find a house here in my market area for $100,000 is very tough to find. So just using the $100,000 example, if you have to give 10% of that as an EMD, as your earnest money deposit, that's $10,000. Who wants to give away $10,000? So read the contract, guys. When you get that contract, it's going to have everything in there. Everything that I've discussed in all the videos. I don't care if you never watch another video. I don't care if you ever get the e-guide. If you read everything that's in that contract and fully understand it, then you'll be fairly okay. You'll be fairly okay. So when you get these contracts, make sure you're reading them over. Sometimes the REO companies, they'll have the selling agent, which will be your agent. They'll have your agent fill out their local MLS board forms and send that over. And then they'll send over what we call addenda. And that's just a fancy way of saying more paperwork that's going to go along with the contract that you've already signed. So with some sellers, you sign the local MLS paperwork, and then once they have accepted your offer, then they're going to send over additional paperwork that pretty much is going to attach to the contract that you've already signed, or the offer that you've already signed. And then once you read over that and you sign off on that and both parties sign off on it, then you'll have an actual contract. However, what's super, super important to know is that addenda that they send over, their forms supersedes your agent's MLS forms. Let me repeat. Their forms supersede your agent's MLS forms. So if there's ever any conflicting information between what you signed with your agent and their local MLS forms and their addenda, the paperwork that they sent over, then their paperwork is going to supersede, meaning that their paperwork is going to rule. That's the paperwork that they're going to go by if ever there is an issue, if ever a conflict arises. They're going to look at their paperwork and see what their paperwork says. So make sure that you're reading the contract, guys, because it's going to talk to you about your inspections. It's going to talk to you about time frames. It's going to talk to you about your closing date. It's going to talk to you about whether there's negotiation periods or not. It's going to be all in there somewhere. So make sure that you read that. Now, the reason why I said earlier, I said you'll be fairly okay, because that contract does not specify every single thing that could actually come up. I will say that. It doesn't specify there's no way that any contract can address every single solitary thing that could possibly come up. It's impossible to address that. You'll be signing a 6,000 page contract. So there are some things with REO properties that may come up that may not actually be in that contract, or may not actually be in that addenda that they send over. But like I said, if you get my e-guide, you'll see a lot of the things that can come up. You'll see a lot of the things that you should be looking for. You'll see a lot of the things that could come up that could cost you money, more importantly. But again, guys, read the contract. Just read the contract. So whether it's your agent's local MLS forms, whether it's the agent's local MLS forms and addenda that they send over, or if they have their own form, period, where you're just signing their forms, whatever it is, whatever they want you to put your offer on, make sure that you read over that before you sign it. Because once it goes over to them, to the seller, and the seller signs off on it, you're now in a contract. You're now considered to be under contract. And you're now expected to abide by what you signed. You're now expected to abide by what you signed off on. And if you don't abide by what you signed off on, you can lose your earnest money deposit, your EMD. Not to mention, if it's with a seller that allows you to do home buyers inspection, and I have a video on that as well. Make sure you find it if you haven't watched it already. So if you've done a home buyers inspection and you pay for that, then you're out of that money too. Not to mention if you're further along in the process and you're getting financed and you pay for an appraisal. Not to mention if you're getting hard money and you have to pay your hard money loan fees up front for your hard money lender to come out to take a look at the house. So see how the fees just keep on adding up? See how that can just quickly snowball to a lot of money that you can lose because you didn't read the contract? Because a lot of times when the seller decides to keep the EMD, it's for a reason that's in the contract. It's for a reason that's in the contract. Now, I will say, like I said, I have seen a couple instances where it's kind of like a gray area, and that area where they kind of slightly talk about it in the contract is a little ambiguous. And if you don't really know about buying these type of properties, then that little paragraph you might have glazed over and really didn't know exactly what it meant. But it's like a blanket, I call it CYA for the bank or for the seller. And there's one thing that, for the life of me, I don't know why most asset managers, when they send their contract over, they don't address this. And it's a way that investors can lose money. It's a way that if the investors don't comply with it, that they could be in default. So that I break down in my e-guide. That you'll never see a video on that, because that is something that I'm definitely saving for those that are actually serious about buying these REO properties and leveling up. That will only be in the e-guide. That will only be in the e-guide. I'm saving that for those that are serious and want to really buy these properties, and they take the time to get the e-guide, read over that, print out those cheat sheets, and be able to use it as their guide when they're buying these properties, right? So anyway, this concludes today's video. Just wanted to say, read that contract. It's going to solve most of your problems. Things that come up truly are in that contract for the most part. All right. So, all right. Hopefully you found today's video helpful to learn how to buy these foreclosures like a boss. And until next time, toodles, guys.